Previously on WandaVision.
You've gone through the boundary twice already, Monica. The energy inside has rewritten your cells on a molecular level twice.
I know what Wanda is feeling, and I won't stop until I help her.
It is my intention to reach those outside of Westview and make sense of our situation. The people need us!
Mom!
What is it, Billy?
Your dad, he's in trouble.
It's not like your dead husband can die twice.
Maximoff was never going to negotiate with us.
We can't outgun her. And clearly antagonizing her is only making things worse. If Wanda is the problem, she has to be our solution.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Geeks of the Multiverse channel for yet another WandaVision breakdown and review. Another week, another WandaVision video, you know how it goes, so without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so we've reached episode 7, titled Breaking the Fourth Wall, which I'd say is a very appropriate name for a The Office style episode, which sees characters like Wanda, Vision, Agnes, and now that she's in the Hex too, Darcy Lewis talk directly into the camera in an interview-like way. I'm sure that even if you haven't seen any shows like The Office or Modern Family, you still know how they work. This episode, like Kevin Feige said it would be, is longer than the previous 6. Apparently this longer episode trend will follow throughout the rest of the season, which I'm definitely not gonna complain about. In this episode, we pick up in the morning after the last week's episode, when Wanda expanded the Hex, imprisoning most of the Sword agents at the base along with Darcy. We see that Wanda is clearly feeling the pressure of it all as she lies in bed not wanting to get up, and she spends most of the episode dressed in a comfortable, lazy Sunday-type clothing while watching TV and eating cereal, showing that she doesn't care much about the constructing these wild, bombastic storylines anymore. Wanda feeling under pressure, likely due to the mass expansion of the Hex and all these new things that she has to control, also takes a huge toll on the world around her. We see throughout the episode that the structural integrity of Westview seems to be falling apart, as objects and the aesthetic of the house warps and changes, not knowing which decade to settle in. We then get a very The Office inspired intro that, interestingly enough, features Wanda's name over and over and over again, on different things like a street sign, VHS tape, and car number plates, before finally landing on a calendar, which then slowly fades in Vision's name to form the show's title. This is an interesting one since the show's intro started off as just the main characters, then switched to focus more on an ensemble cast, and now is only focusing on Wanda. Something of note during this intro is where Wanda's name appears as part of a sentence in the form of a cut-up magazine letters, which reads, "I know what you are doing, Wanda." It's also worth talking about how, when the show's title appears, underneath it says created by Wanda Maximoff, which kind of contradicts the notion that she's not responsible for the Westview anomaly, as suggested in the scene after the intro. Back with Wanda, we see another sign that she has given up, when the twins ask if they should look for Vision, and she says,
Well, if he doesn't want to be here, there's nothing I can do about it.
Which then sort of segues onto the boys asking her about what Pietro said about re-killing Vision, to which Wanda tells them not to believe anything that man said, and that he's not their uncle. She also goes on to say that although they expect her to have all the answers, she has none, once again showing that she has lost control of the situation, and perhaps that she isn't responsible for it in the first place. Her feeling a bit depressed and emotionally drained leads to the arrival of Agnes, who, like always, comes into the house just when she needs her, and she offers to take away the kids and look after them at her house. Now, I think all of us who were speculating that she was Agatha Harkness knew that this was a bad idea straight away. Later on, we actually join Agnes and the boys in her house, which marks the first time we've actually seen inside Agnes's house, where the boys are sitting with her, and Billy says that he likes how her house is quiet, and then goes on to say that Agnes is quiet on the inside. This is a reference to his telepathic powers, and suggests that he can't read her. This would be down to her secretly being a highly powerful sorceress, and therefore likely able to block out a telepath's powers. In this scene, we get yet another mention of Agnes's husband Ralph, but once again, we don't see him. Out in the far reaches of Wanda's hex, we see that Vision is alive and well once again, as he wakes up on the field where he was disintegrating last episode. We see that the sword base and agents have turned into a circus and circus performers, with Darcy playing the role of the escape artist just before Vision frees her mind and the two of them take off back to the Maximoff house. On this journey back to the house, it gives Vision the opportunity he needs to talk about questions about what's going on, and also about his life before Westview, which, as we found out in episode 5, he can't actually remember. He then comes to understand both his origin and his death. A death that he can't remember, but he realises that Wanda does and has to live with that trauma every day. The two of them then get stopped on the way back by an assortment of different obstacles which Vision suspects is Wanda trying to stop him from returning home, but is actually more likely to be Agnes. Vision then loses his patience and flies away, and this is the last time we see the two of them in the episode. In the real world, with what's left of SWORD response team, we don't get to see much of Director Hayward apart from a quick scene where he tells one of his agents to have the team ready before they launch today. I don't know what this is about or what he's planning, but I guess we'll have to wait until next week to find out. The majority of real world scenes come from Monica and Jimmy, which we last saw driving away from Wanda's expanding hex in search for Monica's mysterious contact. So, the moment we'd all been waiting for, was it Reed? Was it Doom? Was it Blue Marvel? Was it Brandon's hope for Leopold Fitz from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? No, it was some random military lady called Major Goodner. To be honest, I was kind of half expecting it to be no one special anyway, so I wasn't really disappointed, though it would have been cool to get John Krasinski playing Reed Richards in a The Office style episode. Anyway, on their way to the contact, Jimmy and Monica discuss an email from Darcy before she went into the Hex which details more about Project Cataract. It turns out that Hayward wasn't decommissioning Vision, he was trying to bring him back online, and therefore his reasoning for tracking Vision inside of the Hex was because he wanted his sentient weapon back. Major Goodner then provides Monica with her Hex-proof tank and a spacesuit so she can go into the Westview anomaly unchanged. This doesn't exactly work out though, as the Hex-proof tank proves not to be quite so, well, Hex-proof. Monica doesn't give up there though, and bursts through the Hex herself without the help of the sword vehicle. This gives us an awesome sequence where she's splitting up two different versions of herself, and voices are echoing all around her, but she keeps pushing through until she emerges the other side with glowing eyes, which tells us that she's officially got her powers now. This all leads to the big climax of the episode with a huge cliffhanger ending as she runs to Wanda's house and desperately tries to reason with her, but Wanda is having none of it. Agnes, who is watching from her window, then comes to Wanda's aid as usual and takes her back to her own house, and from Wanda's reaction it seems to be her first time there too. Wanda notices that there's something not quite right about the house and questions where the twins are, to which Agnes tells her that they're probably in the basement. As Wanda goes looking for them in said basement, she discovers a stone passage in the doorway covered in vines. She cautiously walks through, and as she explores the uncanny space, she finds a book. Now, this isn't just any book, this is The Darkhold, a book that was heavily featured in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, The Runaways Season 3, and has influenced other Marvel TV shows which I personally haven't seen, but I know Brandon was incredibly excited when he saw it, and is hoping that somehow this can bring in characters like Ghost Rider who have dealt with it in the past. Agnes then enters, holding Senor Scratchy, and reveals her true identity, Agatha Harkness. We then see a flashback sequence accompanied by its own theme song of Agatha creating a bunch of the strange happenings in Westview, and she's even revealed that she killed Sparky too, which I think we all knew, but it's just sadder now that she's flexing about it. We also see that she was the puppet master of the fake Pietro. Now, there is a mid-credit scene in this episode which features Monica snooping around Agatha's house as Evan Peters comes up behind her saying, "Snooper's gonna snoop," as she turns around with her eyes glowing purple like Agatha's magic. Now, we're not 100% sure about what's going on with him, but we've got a couple of theories here. So, one of them is that we think he could be an aged-up version of the missing boy on Wanda's milk carton from earlier in the episode, and the more likely one is that he's Nicholas Scratch, Agatha's son from the comics, who could have been disguised as Senior Scratchy this whole time, which makes a lot of sense when you consider that we didn't see the rabbit while fake Pietro was running around the place. Either way, I think it's safe to say that even if Mephisto shows up in this show, he's not played by Evan Peters, since I doubt Agatha would be puppeteering her master. One last thing before I close off the video. As always, this episode had an ad break, this time for an antidepressant pill called Nexus, which, and I quote, works to anchor you back to your reality, or the reality of your choice. This is a very clear representation of how Wanda feels at this point in the show. In Marvel Comics, the Nexus is a cross-dimensional gateway which provides a pathway to any and all possible realities. This includes realities between realities as well. It is unknown whether it was created by some being or if it's just one place in the entire multiverse where all realities naturally intersect. This is something huge that I won't touch on in this video though, and we'll have a bonus WandaVision video coming out sometime in the next few days about it. Okay, so there we have it. This episode was a really interesting one as it felt like such a change of pace and departure from the previous 6. With the big reveal at the end of this episode, it seems like we're really getting into the meat and potatoes of this show, which also seems to have dived even further into the House of M storyline than I originally thought it would. I also know for a fact that Brandon is incredibly excited about what all of this means for the future and is cooking up plenty of new theories to put on Twitter. We also now have a TikTok account where we'll be posting all sorts of crazy WandaVision theories, so make sure to follow them both of them at Geeks of the Multiverse. The links will be in the description below in Brandon's linktree. I've also got a really interesting Battlefront 2 video which should be coming out sometime soon, but until then, I've been Will and I'll catch you next week. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw here today, then maybe consider subscribing to catch our other content as and when it releases.